Guess who's back? Back again. What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday to you. October the 16th. Your favorite Unk is back in the saddle, back in his chair, back in the country. Man, we're back, ready for the Longhorns second half of the season. I'm back. I'm excited. I'm ready to be here. I'm glad to see everyone else is back. I hope you guys have had a fun couple of days away. You know, at least I've had a fun couple of days away from you guys. Missed you. Missed all of you, though, of course. Missed all of you guys, of course. It's time for us to get back to what we do, though. That's the thing. It's time for us to get back to doing what we do. Woke up this morning. The weather was beautiful. My gosh, it was beautiful out this morning. Like, I felt the birds were chirping. I felt like for once we're not going to be sweating at 8 o'clock in the morning. And this craziness and that we've been going through is this weather that we have is finally here. Super excited, man. Super excited, man. I took a couple of days off, spent some time with the family. I think if you guys follow the show, know any parts of the show, you know that my youngest son, his mom and I kind of do a little joint custody thing. So he's down in Mexico right now. And so I went down there to Merida to visit him. Could not have done the show if I had wanted to do the show. I kind of wanted to do the show on maybe Thursday and Friday. I didn't even have internet at my Airbnb. I didn't even have the internet until like Friday. I got checked in on a Wednesday. I didn't have the internet on until like Friday afternoon. And here's the thing. I'm just give you guys some life advice. You know, when you're kind of outside the country, on foreign soil, this and that, I think the last thing you really want to do is start complaining to the people about your stuff. Like, I'm just like, you know what? I'm in Mexico. I don't really know who owns this Airbnb. I'm assuming it's this person, but I don't know who they're related to. So I'm just like, hey, give me the internet when you want to. Like, you ain't gonna cartel me. You're not gonna cartel. I'm just, hey, man, no internet? Oh, man, that's unfortunate. Well, if you can work on it for me, I'd really appreciate it because I would like to have it. You know, but the last thing I was about to do was, you know, you can't go to foreign places and act American. Like, you just got to understand when you're on their soil, you're on their turf, it's their rules. They'll get to it when they get to it, and eventually got to it. I had 2 days of my kids, though, no internet, no Roblox, no nothing, just actually having to do things like play. It was like a novel concept. It was like a throwback, but they found other things to do. So I was cool, man. I'm pretty sure I broke my toe though. Like I'm pretty sure I like my pinky toe. So I took my kid to one of these like trampoline indoor places. You guys who have kids might know all about this thing, right? Well, these trampoline indoor parks, whatever. So my kid, you know, there's always going to be a kid that falls and cries, right? That's just kind of the thing. My youngest son fell, he cried. So I decided, let me go see what happened. Uncle's over there. Hadn't been drinking, by the way, it's afternoon. Haven't been drinking, none of that. I go and I had to try to step around one of these little car things, trampoline things that they have for kids jump on, right? I try to step around that, ended up stepping into the little trampoline thing. Oh my gosh, I take a misstep. Trying to get out of this thing, hit my little pinky toe, right? Pretty sure it's broken, right? I felt like this thing had to be broken. It's as broken as broken could be, right? So anyway, I get through that. So that's like a Thursday. So then I'm limping around on Thursday, limping around on Saturday. I decided not to go to the hospital. So I'm like, all right. And I felt like yesterday, I was like, man, I'm starting to feel like I might be back, you know, getting back to where I need to be. Like, I felt like, you know, that was the game time decision. Like, with a shot, I could have played, right? So, of course, I'm exhausted, right? Tired, sleeping in the afternoon because I took a flight. When I took my flight home, it was an early morning flight. It was like a 7 a.m. flight. And wake up in the middle of the night. I was like, let me make sure everything's locked up. I hit my damn toe again on the door. Okay, that time I did have a couple of drinks. I'm not going to lie. But I don't think that's the reason why. I hit the damn thing again. The thing starts dropping down. So I'm pretty sure. So if you guys see me in Sark's press conference today and you see me wearing sandals, don't think I'm trying to make a fashion statement. Just know that's the only thing I can fit my foot into that feels comfortable. I don't really think even if I go to the doctor, they can really do anything for like a broken toe. I'm pretty sure I just have to wait that thing out. So I'm probably just gonna wait that thing out, but it hurts. Just so you guys know, I'm smiling on the outside. I'm in pain on the inside. So just so you guys know. And last thing, man. Last thing. Shout out to United Airlines. You guys fly on United? I've never really flown. I've flown like once or so. I use the best with like American and Southwest. Man, United had a really nice experience, man. Like they send you messages all the time. I know American sends you stuff, but they send you stuff where your bags are at any time. Like it was real good, man. And the Houston, I went to the Bush. I don't know if I ever been to the Bush airport out there. Oh, that kills DFW. That kills DFW all day. Like that I don't even know why I'm messing with DFW if there was life like this in Texas. Like Austin Airport, cool. I love Austin Airport. DFW is like going to like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a third world country when I'm at DFW. Like I'm just like, man, it's like when is the next flight to Iraq? Because that's where I feel like, right? Maybe Iraq is a beautiful place. I don't know. But nonetheless, I feel like and then I got to the Bush, man, and I was like, man, this place is nice. I went through the customs there, so much easier than DFW. I'm just saying, I might start rocking United. Like I'm just gonna let them know. I don't know if you guys know the difference between United and American. I don't know if you guys have an opinion one way or another. I'm just telling you, felt really good about United. I'm just trying to say. Now, American, if you want to go ahead and throw some ducats on Unc and just have him give us some free flights to upgrade my experience, I'll be more than willing to hear you out on this thing. Same goes for you, Southwest. But United, all right, I'm feeling you. I like this Houston thing. I don't like DFW. Golly, I can't stand that place. But nonetheless, Unc is back. 6 more games ready in the regular season. I'm super excited about this. You guys, I'm looking forward to a week of you guys making Cougar High references. So disrespectful, just so disrespectful. But I know you guys are going to make your Cougar High references this week as you guys get ready to face Houston for the first time in a long time. So I'm looking forward to hearing all the smack talk. We're going to get into everything that I missed over the past couple of days because I'll be honest with you, I didn't really get a chance to log in on anything. But outside of getting in the internet, I couldn't watch games because you have to, at the Airbnb, so my Airbnb in Mexico, the login stuff is in Spanish. And so, first of all, I'm not that fluent. I got a little bit, but I don't got a lot to, go through it. I can hear it. I can't necessarily read it. I could have used my Google Translate, this and that. But the last time I had a friend who lived there come over there and log me in, man, for months afterwards, I'd log into my Netflix and all my settings be changed to Spanish. And I'm like, man, I'm like, somebody's watching my stuff. Like, who's watching Seinfeld in Spanish? I was just watching it and now it's in Spanish. So I didn't want to log in. I finally figured out a few weeks ago how to just log everybody totally out. So somebody had been watching all my stuff. So I didn't want to log in. So I missed out on stuff. So I had to catch up yesterday. Yesterday was a catch-up day for me. So we're going to talk about the things that I missed while I was gone. We're going to talk about the things ahead. And of course, at 8:45 is Overreaction Monday. It'll be interesting to see what Ketch has to overreact to when I'm going to overreact to as well. Because, in the bye week, not really much to talk about, not much to overreact to. But nonetheless, Rodolfo, you said the only good thing they're giving us is Houston's giving us a Travis Scott. Houston is giving you Beyonce, Rodolfo. Take that out of your mouth. If Houston has given us nothing else, Houston has given us Beyonce. Say less, Rodolfo. Speaking of, they're going to chats. Always like to go in here and see my people. See how everyone's starting to file in here. Soto806, you were number 1 in the chats, not as always, but kind of becoming one of your customs. I'm good to see that. Rodolfo, you were number 2. SEC Hookem and Thumper is in here. Top 4 for Thumper. Good to see you again. Arthur is in the chats. Anthony, my main man Anthony is in the chat. Caesar is in the chat. Sark After Dark. El Jefe is back. You damn right. last time I went through DFW, I tried to bring back some liquor. They took it from me. So I ain't even try that again, man. Just DFW got on my nerves. Louis Gaines is in there. The original OG, Chris Bennett. He is in the house. Cotton. My young buck is in the house. Good to see you, Cotton. Hope you had a good weekend. John, good to be back, just like Texas is. All right, I like it. You had to go ahead and re-energize over the break. So I'm glad you got that. Tom G is back in the house. My main man, Tom. Tom always about that action, boss. Tom G, good to see you. Looking forward to Saturday as well. Longest Horns, Jay Ward's in the house. Mr. Hookham's in the house. Calvin is in the house. These people are so young, they don't even remember the Calvin from McDonald's. But I remember Calvin from McDonald's. Calvin. I know you got the Calvin Gilroy Jr., but Calvin, there once was a time when there was a guy with your name that got a job at McDonald's. I got to send that one to Aaron so he knows what the hell I'm talking about. But Calvin got a job. Calvin working at McDonald's. There's literally, Aaron, look up while I'm there, go look up Calvin job McDonald's, and this is like an old ad, and it was a series of ads of Calvin getting a job, and he got a job at McDonald's. Hey, I'm sure it probably pays pretty well. Mike Hargis is in the house, my homie. That's good to see you, Mike. Richard's in the house. Text Guy 2 is in the house. I see Aaron watching it. He's laughing and stuff. Jay Ward is in the house. SEC Hookham's in the house. Bunny B, my main man, is in the house. David Scott, good morning to you. Blue JJ Ward, you guys are in the house. Darian, good to see you as well. Jamie Gutierrez, I'm good on my Spanish, Jamie. Or how is it, Jaime? Is that? I bet you that's what it is. It ain't even Jamie. It is Gutierrez. It's Jaime Gutierrez. That's how my own Spanish is becoming so bien. Kai, good morning to you. Sean is in here as well. Blue Jay is in here as well. I want to make sure I get everybody. Buck Wow, the infamous trucker on these wavelengths, is in the house. I'm just going to do a breaker 1-2 for you. I'll let my main man Chad take care of the rest. James McDaniel's in the house. Dean's in the house, of course. Mean Bean 20. Darren. I'm not gonna say it, but it's so true, Aaron. It was bad. It was like Calvin got a job at McDonald's. Like, all right, set your goals high. Such direct marketing at that point. Horns Up 512 is in the house. Hey, Jeezy is in the house. Shook One. Ain't no such things as halfway crooks. Where are the Mexican Cougars at? Hey man, it was a family trip for me. I know, and just another Frames reviewer. It's a family trip for me. So that none of that stuff going on for me down there. San Antonio is where you can find all the beautiful Latinas that you want to, but the Mexico stuff, I don't mess around in foreign territory. San Antonio, yeah, I know her aunt do. Down there is where it's at. And oh man, Luke 222. He's a J8. He is a JB24 fan club president is here. Oh, Jonathan Brooks. Yeah, I like to see you. Glad to you checking in. And thank you, just another Frames reviewer, for you checking in as well. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Everybody's in the chat. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. First time you're listening to it. And do me a favor, share this video in your group chats. You got them group chats. You got a I know you got a group chat with your Longhorn friends. Go ahead and share this thing. It's like, man, this little peanut head dude comes on in the morning, kind of, he's somewhat entertaining. So I like to go ahead and watch him. Call him the Unk. Yeah, I know why he called me the Unk. And what's going on to you, Richard, as well. Speaking of family, I also got to mention my main man, Eric Torres, Eric Sells Homes, DFW, Mr. El Presidente himself, the original. Eric Sells Homes, DFW. If you are looking for a home in the DFW area, it's October, cuffing season. You don't need to be cuffing down there in your apartment. Cuff in a house in the DFW area. It's right now, fellas. It's prime time for you, fellas. Right now, the weather done changed. Oh, we're coming to holiday time, fellas. Every single woman out there is going to want to have a man for the holidays, and what better way to Mac Daddy that thing by buying yourself a nice little crib for yourself before you buy her a gift. And then you got cuffing season coming along. Eric Sells Homes DFW. He's got you covered. Looking to buy a home, looking to sell a home, looking to have a fireplace for cuffing season. Go ahead and hit my main man, Eric Sells Homes DFW. Hit him up. Go ahead, get that little QR code. He's got you covered. And if you're thinking about buying one next year, and you just want to say, hey, man, just give me some recognizance on what the market looks like, he's the person to hook you up as well. Eric Sells Homes, DFW, El Presidente himself, who will be here on Friday. He didn't have any picks this past week, so he's good. It's probably his best picking week ever because he didn't have to pick anything. We'll see what he does this upcoming week at Eric Sells Homes, DFW. Get ready for that. Rogue Shop. That's right, Richard. You say you haven't heard the cuffing term since high school. That's right, baby. The temperature's down and it is cuffing season. That's a fusion. Cuffing, man. The cut it's Aaron. It means like cuff, like, get like a handcuff type of thing. It means like everybody's trying to get with somebody. Everybody, this is that season. They want to get booed up. They want to have somebody to go to the Halloween parties with, Thanksgiving and Christmas and the lights, and then all the families doing stuff. And so it's prime time. But fellas, we'll give you one piece of advice. Uncle's gonna give you a deadline. I'm giving you until about December 1st to find someone. And if not, you gotta wait till New Year. Why? Because I'm preventing you from the awkward Christmas phase when you're like, man, I just met this person, but I don't know if I should buy him something. I don't know. It's because it's to respect. December 1st, your deadline. Then after December 1st, New Year. New Year, new resolutions, all that kind of stuff. December 1st, I'm just going to save you some money. Fellas and ladies, I'm just going to save you a little bit of money, little heartache, all that kind of stuff. Unless you meet someone who's special, then the hell with the uncle says. So check this out. I missed out on some things. Since I've been gone. And so it's time for me to catch up. So, Retmore, you said you could have been cuffed, but you fumbled the ball. Man, Retmore. Listen, man, Retmore, don't worry about that. You may have fumbled it. That's all right. There's another. Listen. There's plenty out there. Look at the statistics. Look how many billions of people are out there in this world. Billions. So don't worry about the one. If you can't connect with one when there's probably like 4 billion women in the world, we got bigger problems. 4 million men in the world, 8 billion men, whatever the numbers are. Whatever the numbers look like, you still got billions of people out there. So don't worry about the one. You messed up, moved off. You know how many times I've been divorced? I don't know. Too many. My divorce lawyer is my best friend at this damn point, but don't worry about it. You can't walk forward by looking backward. You keep marching, brother. At some point, you'll find it. Me marching, sister. Some point, you'll find it. So don't even worry about it. Keep marching forward. Eventually, you'll find it. You'll find you. Listen, last thing. My 600-pound life. You guys ever watch that show? My 600-pound life. Have you ever noticed when you watch that thing? It's back in the day, right? But we watch that show, that a lot of the people are actually in relationships. They're married. Like they have spouses and they're over 600 pounds. So my thing is, there's somebody for everybody. Because if people who got to get cut out of a wall are married, damn it, Retmore, you can find somebody too. That's your motivation for today. All right. So a couple of things that I missed. So if you guys are on Orange Bloods, I don't know if you guys checked this out or saw this thing. And if not, I'll tell it to you. But it's like, I'll tell it to you days later. This is why you should be on Orange Bloods, because you could know about this on Thursday as opposed to Monday, all kinds of late, showing up to news and information on CP time. But that's all right. I got you covered for right now. Ryan Wingo. You guys have talked about him. 5-star wide receiver. So the state that basically there's kind of a report, what a paraphrase what Jason Sucamel had on our website as well. Darian, I'm here being live. Man, I'm a life coach, man. Listen, Darian, let me tell you about this. I've got nearly 50 years of experience in these bones. And so for the next whatever years that I'm going to be on this earth, my goal is to make sure to prevent everybody. I know there's no shortcuts in life per se, but I'm gonna tell you guys what could have helped me years ago to help you. So whatever's in me now is now for me to get out of. So yes, I'll be giving you some life lessons out here in these streets. I learned a lot. I'm grown, you know. So Ryan Wingo, he there seems to be the leaves blowing right now, and it seemed to be blowing towards the Missouri side for this 5-star receiver that's out there. And according to Jason Sukamel, who, if that's the person you need to be mad at, and I'll have Jason on the show tomorrow, and you guys can waterboard him for delivering this kind of bad news. But it seems to be some chatter that's coming about that they might be leaning towards Missouri. And that's the whole thing. The NIL play a part. You know, Texas can match NIL, but there's other things involved. And so one of the big things that came out of our war room on Thursday, again, I wasn't here. You know, I hadn't had an internet until this weekend. So surely didn't know it live. I can tell you that damn much. I sure wasn't going to complain. You see, Unc got back here in one piece. That's what happens. You go in foreign territory. People start getting too familiar. Better shut your mouth. Guys want to know about people come disappearing in Cancun, stuff like that. Get too familiar. Shut your mouth. So anyway, that's another one, Darian. When you're on favorite foreign territory, shut your mouth. Be quiet. You're a visitor at that point. But this is the Ryan Wingo thing, though, is interesting to me, guys. And it's a kind of there's a lot of things I want to catch up on before Ketch gets in here. It's a kind of an indicative of, I think, where we are at as relates to younger people. Like, and I think like we grew up in a kind of an era. Some of us old school folks, and some of us who may be a generation or so after me, maybe to Rodolfo to a certain degree, who could be my son. I'm his uncle at this point. When it comes to like elite prospects, I think they've got a new school way of thinking that the old school folks don't really have the way of thinking. Like, I think when we grew up, it was all about one, you know, kind of representing like the logo. Like the logo meant a lot, and so you wanted to be a part of like that school that you grew up loving, right? I think that comes a lot with the elite prospects. Like, as a guy who's native Floridian, right? Most of the guys who were elite prospects for years, you know, they would wait, you know, for those coaches to come and knock it on their doors. Florida State, Bobby Bowden, of course, that Florida, Steve Spurrier for a number of years, the U, and what they were doing now. They're like, that's kind of like you wait for that, right? And then people here in Texas grew up, you know, for the most part, especially these prospects, you know, you become elite. You wanted to play for the most part, you want to play for the University of Texas, right? That's how that thing went. I remember several years ago, and this might be like kind of the last generation of this, right? The former staff, I remember talking to them, and they were interested in PJ Locke, and they were very interested in him, and they wanted him, but they felt like they could offer him at the end. They had some other guys who they wanted, and then so PJ was kind of like an optional guy for them, like last minute take. But what was interesting, I said, well, how do you guys know that you can get PJ based off of this? I mean, like, he's already, because PJ was committed to Oregon. Like, so I'm like, how you feel like you're going to get this kid? He's already committed to Oregon. And it's what, you know what they told me? He's got Texas stuff all over his walls in his room. I go, what? They go, yeah, he still has UT stuff up in his room. We know we can get him. He wants to be a Longhorn. I was like, that's fascinating. And it ended up being true. They ended up offering him at the last minute. He flipped right away. He comes to Texas, you know, dream come true, right? And so, but then we've seen, and you guys have seen, it work reverse, right? Where kids don't get offered by Texas, and then they end up being bitter, and they end up hating Texas, right? For those reasons, like the Johnny Manziel of the world, Baker Mayfield. These people end up being scarred because they don't really get that Texas offer, the Texas offer that they won. And Johnny, you know, really, he wanted to play quarterback. They would saw him as a safety. Baker didn't get that offer, and he ends up being upset with Texas, but he doesn't really get a lot of offers. I don't know why it's just Texas himself, but it's clear, you know, it's hard to hate something unless you really loved it at some point, right? So it's really clearly Baker always wanted to be a Longhorn, he didn't get that opportunity. So then that hate happens, right? And so, but we've seen what's happened with elite people, that sometimes the logo, as much as it may mean something to us, doesn't always. Garrett Wilson, to a certain degree, they did recruit Garrett Wilson though. Unless you guys are having your own conversation, in which, if that's the case, I'll just butt out of it. But we saw a few years ago, like kind of an indicative of that. We saw what happened with Quinn Ewers, and I know some of the things that the eyes of Texas had, some sort of relates to that. But he was a guy who grew up as a Longhorn fan and then decided to go to Iowa State. We saw it with the Brockermeyer twins. Like, here you go. The logo should mean something. You're literally walking past UT stuff in your house every single day, and those kids go to Alabama. And what you're seeing now is just like the logo. Again, for us who are old school, it was like, boom, that comes to your house, done deal. It's a done deal. The Mac Brown days of just getting all your recruiting stuff done by summertime, right? Because the logo mattered. And now these kids are like, I mean, it's cool and all, but I don't know. It's a different generation. Like kids get different. You can't, how you raise kids back in the day versus how you raise kids now is totally different, right? Things change, things happen, things evolve. Like we evolve, right? And so kids evolve. The music stuff changes, right? The things they watch changes, right? And I think recruiting has changed as well. Because when you look at, if I go into the state of Texas, right? If you look at the top 25 recruits from rivals at this moment, Texas has 3 of those kids at this moment. Colin Simmons, number 1. They got Arian Hampton at 23, Parker Livingston at 24, the receiver. And that's it at this moment. Florida, University of Florida, has 2 guys from the state of Texas. Could you imagine us when we was growing up? How that was like always kind of a thing. Like if you're from Florida, you go to a Florida school. You're from Texas, you go to the Texas school. When you Georgia, you go to like a Georgia school, right? Remember they used to, I don't know if you guys had anything similar here. I know in Florida, they used to have like the Florida-Georgia game. That was kind of like the all-star game. The best kids from Florida go to the best kids from Georgia. This is way back in the day. I don't know if there was a Texas anything kind of all-star-ish kind of thing, but the state thing meant a whole lot. And now you have a logo and you have a kid like Michael Hudson who's like, yeah, I'm going to go to Tech. They suck, but I'm going to go to Tech. You're like, you're going to go to a program that sucks? It's like, yeah, his kids are just built differently. Like if you're when you look at this Michael Hudson thing, I know he's not from the state of Texas, right? You look at him, you say to yourself, why are you going to Missouri? Like out of all places. And these things, just kids have changed. There's a new generation of young people who are exposed to different things through 7-on-7, who take all these unofficial visits. The world is so much bigger to them, the internet and all that. And I'm not trying to sound like an old person, but I'm just understanding, like, back in the day, you only knew what you saw, right? Back in the day, we only saw regional broadcasts, right? That's all you really had a chance to see was, before the cable explosions and all these other, you really only had a chance to watch the teams in your state. And you really know much about the other teams. You heard about them. You can read about them. These kids know about everyone everywhere. They can watch whoever they want, whenever they want, on their phone. You know what I'm saying? So things have changed. And so now it's a tougher battle for guys like Sarkisian, who is like, man, we got the logo. It means a lot. You got kids who are like, I mean, that's cool. But you got kids who nowadays, they think about their brand. It's kind of like the LeBron James effect, where you've got kids who talk about brands. I'm talking about young people. I hear these kids, I know I'm sounding old, but I hear them when they're getting recruited and signing and start talking about, man, this place is a place that can help me build my brand. You're like, your brand? You're 17 years old. You a brand? You still wearing Fruit of the Looms, young person. Like, what are you talking about brands? Like, you talking about a brand? Like, yes, but they totally think different. And this is where I think the success of Texas, where I'm bringing this all back to, Texas having success this season, I think opens a whole lot of doors for them going forward. Because Texas has success this season, I think it resonates a little bit more with some of these today's generation. Because again, we have to, when we start looking at today's recruits, we really have to take some things in consideration. And what we have to take into consideration is that I joke about me being older, right? But you guys are older too, okay? And so when we start thinking about that 2005 season, right? That Texas season, right? If you do the math, it's a real simple equation. 2023 minus 2005. Understand that was 18 years ago. That means when VY crosses that goal line against USC, those little kids was taking a nap. These recruits right now, the Ryan Wingos of the world, the Micah Hudsons of the world, the Colin Simmons of the world, like they were literally being held or in a crib, literally, if they were born at all. Okay. So as much as VY means to the University of Texas and his legacy and all that type of stuff, as much as we praise him, we got to understand that you got today's generation of athletes, never seen him play, have no clue the hell you talking about. Just straight up, no clue. If you go to 2005, again, great season. 18 years ago. So that means those kids were 4 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like things change. And so that's why I'm saying, like, it's important for Texas to have succeed this season because there's so many things that they haven't seen. There's so many things that we have seen, but there's so many things that they haven't seen that just is like, man, this is why I should be at UT. UT is, of course, we know what UT means and all that kind of stuff. But to really bring it home, where it's you're able to get guys out of state, in state, to really lock in. Sark could go ahead and do the damn thing this year. Get this team to, not only the Big 12 championship game, but maybe beyond. And that's all that stuff is on the table. We'll talk about that hopefully today. If not, we'll get into tomorrow. But you guys know Texas runs the table, finishes 11-1, wins the Big 12 championship game at 12-1. There's a pathway there. If not, nonetheless, it's still a hell of a season. You know what I'm saying? But it's got to be a season that they see, that it resonates with them, so they know this is why I need to be a part of this. This is why that Texas means something. So this way, we're in a logically, we're telling ourselves, why the hell and how the hell would Texas be in a dogfight with Missouri for a recruit? And you can say, oh, man, well, Missouri's doing good. But you and I are old enough to know, like, Missouri really ain't all that. They've had some, good seasons. But, there's nothing special, you would think, about it. And you would tell yourself, like, Texas, your brand, your everything, so on and so forth. Like, it makes more sense here. And this becomes a challenge going forward to convince all those guys, all those young people out there who weren't born or babies when VY crossed the goal line, or those who were 4 years old when Colt McCoy was doing the damn thing here. Before he got, before led his team against Alabama, that becomes a thing. That okay, have success now. Now you can start winning those in-state battles. And then, of course, winning the out-of-state more consistently. Now, look, to me, it's mid-October, so it's not 100% over. So I'm not really willing to put a ribbon and bow or fork into anything as relates to that thing, as relates to recruiting. I still, at some point, think to myself, at some point, Micah Hudson's going to realize, you know what? Joe McGuire, the way this thing's trending, may not even be here throughout my tenure. I might need to reconsider this. So there's a part of me that thinks, man, is that all the way done? Even though everyone says it probably is, and maybe it is. But nonetheless, success this season, as we get ready to talk about Houston and everything else that's about to occur with that, a success this season really, I think, has a trickle-down effect, not only on in-state, but out-of-state recruiting. So that's the first thing. Aaron, let's do this. do a quick break because I know Ketch is going to be coming at 8:45. So let's make sure we get at least one break in, because when he and I go at it, it's going to be full-fledged. And I promise I won't put him in a bad mood by asking him if he's in a bad mood. So let's do a quick break, and I'll be right back. And then when I get back, we're going to catch up on some more things that I missed. It is Monday. I'm hype. I'm back to be back. El Presidente, at least of this show. I'll be back in a few minutes.
This Orange Bloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best recruits from the Charlie Strong era, wide receiver Devin Duvernay. Duvernay was one of the top prospects that the Longhorns signed in the 2016 recruiting class, but his pathway to the Longhorns was as unconventional as anyone in that class or almost any other. The number 52 overall player in the country, number 5 player in the state of Texas, and number 8 wide receiver in the country per Rivals, the high 4-star super blue chip had one doozy of a recruitment. Before he attended a Texas Junior Day in February of 2015, he told Orange Bloods' Jason Sucumel that the Longhorns were front and center in his recruitment. Quote, "They're in it. I like Texas. Grew up liking Texas," Duvernay said. "When I've been there, I like them. With the new staff, I like what they're doing. I think the program will be back pretty soon." Yet Baylor, the first school to actually offer Duvernay a scholarship, was always a school that had his attention. It also had his brother Donovan's attention as well, as he made the jump to commit to Baylor in September of 2015. 2 months later, Devin joined him, choosing the Bears over Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. That's right, no Texas among his initial group of finalists. That was pretty much that for Duvernay, as he signed in February of 2016 with the Bears. But Duvernay decided to explore other options after a sexual assault scandal surrounding the Baylor program and the subsequent firing of head coach Art Briles. It was later discovered that Duvernay's national letter of intent was never properly submitted by Baylor, making him immediately open to other programs. After not having the Longhorns among his original finalists, Duvernay signed with the Longhorns in June of 2016. And once Baylor released his brother, he also joined the Longhorns' 2016 recruiting class. When it was all said and done, Baylor's loss turned out to be one hell of a gain for the Texas football program, who added one of the best receivers in school history.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. It's 1:11, 5 minutes away from Overreaction Monday. 5 minutes away from Overreaction Monday. So we'll definitely get into that. Looking forward to catching up with Geoff Ketchum, see what he's been up to over the past couple of days. I haven't talked to him either. I haven't talked to nobody. I didn't have the internet. Could not do that. All right, so other things that I missed. Before I get into the Big 12, I'll just get into Aaron. I know you put in the effort to go ahead and put out the poll stuff. So there's some other things that I missed that I was able to find out a little bit over this weekend, but some polls that came on out this weekend. So look at this beautiful poll and the thing that Aaron put together for us. So check this out for you guys who maybe have been doing stuff this weekend. AP Top 25 was released over the weekend, including the coaches poll as well. Texas looking at number 8. Of course, OU over there at number 6. Only 2 teams in the Big 12 currently ranked at this moment, unless I'm missing one, which I don't believe I am. I believe they're the only 2 at this moment that are ranked. And then in the coaches poll, we've got Texas that moved up 3 slots in the coaches poll, tied with Alabama, it looks like. And then, of course, you got OU over there at 7, which somebody gave them a first place vote, by the way. I'm kind of curious. Who the hell was the person that thought Oklahoma, of all teams in the world, is the number 1 team in the country over Georgia, over Michigan, over Ohio State? Someone's like, man, I just think it's Oklahoma. That sounds like somebody just really pissed off at one of those teams that are ranked. That's what that sounds like to me. But yeah, okay, so keep that up there for a second, Aaron, for me. Let's see what some of you guys are saying. You guys think Washington should be number 4. They're putting on one hell of a season, so hard to disagree with you guys as relates to that one. And again, There's no other team that's ranked in the Big 12. So if you start doing simple math right here, you know that there's some things going to fall by the wayside. But from a simple math standpoint, you realize, okay, as far as CFP stuff is concerned, obviously Texas is going to be on the outside looking in as relates to this for a while, just being at number 8, and of course needing they got to have at least they've got to have the undefeated teams. So at least 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 teams that currently are without a loss to have a loss in order to kind of get back into that thing. Yeah, that's big picture goals. If applicable, if necessary, if Texas does what they need to do and runs the table, if they finish at 11-1, like I said, 12-1, they might be able to force some issues because some teams will obviously lose along the way. It's going to be hard to maintain that thing as as I struggle with the English language. Apparently, I would try to speak in Spanish, but I might be just as bad. But yeah, so we got this is kind of where we are as we enter this week, and then of course going into the second half of the season. So I thought that was really interesting note that happened as well. Some other things that I missed some things in the Big 12. Boy, did I miss some things in the Big 12. So the first thing I missed was on Thursday, and apparently Houston decided that they don't want to suck. So apparently Houston decides that they're going to go ahead and win a game versus West Virginia. So for all you people who spent all this inordinate time trying to figure out tiebreakers with West Virginia, and I know who you are because you asked me some of these questions on the show, you realize, well, that was a waste of time. That was a waste of effort because, I don't know what to make of a team that loses to Houston. I just don't know what to make of it. I don't think Houston's that good. I just don't. Prove me wrong. But nonetheless, I just don't think Houston's that good. And so I realized that, okay, what I really realized is that this entire conference is going to cannibalize themselves. Like that's exactly what I realized, because there's a couple of things else that happened while I was away, right? There's a quarterback by the name of Avery Johnson who just decided, like, I don't know, I'm just going to do the damn thing. Like, where are we at where they're like, you know what? Will Howard, we're just going to put in a running threat. So we're going to throw in some Avery Johnson in here. And all of a sudden, this dude rushes for 5 touchdowns. Like, what world are we looking? What world was this? Talk about stuff that I missed. And I saw the highlights of it. Still trying to wrap my mind around it. I got to go back and watch the game at some point. But yeah, so I learned that K-State is not playing any games. So I'm like, all right, well, K-State seems to be somewhat legit. I know TCU beat up on BYU. So clearly I've learned, like, okay, got it. If we start looking at one of the 2 tougher games that are left on the schedule, it looks like TCU and K-State end up being kind of the tough teams. And then somehow, some way, we wake up and Iowa State, just by a numbers perspective, is second in the Big 12, which would have not seen that coming based off of how they started off the season. Still not convinced Iowa State that's good, but they somehow beat Cincinnati 30-11. So here we are with that one. That happened as well. So those are coming to things I kind of end up missing out on. But at the end of the day, guys, when it's all said and done, Texas controls its own destiny. They're at Houston. So, you take care of them. The BYU. So they've got 2 games that you say to yourself should be pretty winnable games, tune-up games. Then K-State at home, at TCU. That's probably your tough stretch. Your tough stretch is K-State at TCU. I guess at Iowa State. I guess if I have to give it to them. And then Texas Tech, which seems to be absolute trash. And if Micah Hudson still wants to be a part of that, so be it. But I don't know how long his coach, as much as I like Joey McGuire, I don't know how long his coach is going to be there, the way that thing is trending. But nonetheless, let's trend in a good direction, because it's time for Overreaction Monday. Let us bring in our main man, Geoff Ketchum. And by the way, this show is sponsored obviously by Rogue Shop. But good morning to you, Geoff. We both were men in black. How are you doing?
We are. Having seen you in black, I could have put on a different color shirt. It just occurred to me I had plenty of time to do so. And and I'm just lazy this morning.
That's all right.
You know, like getting up out of my chair. There's the decisions we have to make. How are you? Welcome
Ketch,
back.
You'll be happy that I'm wearing a soccer kind of sweatshirt from one of the teams in the Yucatan where my son is at. So I'm actually representing. I've gone like into hardcore of the soccer stuff now. Catch, like I've gone from let me go to Austin FC to like, all right, let me go big picture. Let me get Arsenal. By the way, I know we have a big game this weekend. I won't bore everybody with that, but Arsenal versus Arsenal versus Chelsea is coming up this weekend, if I'm correct, right?
I am just sitting here watching. I can't believe, even though people are going to go irate at the idea of you even daring to say the S word out loud. I love that you're giving me a future weekend preview. Go ahead, do your thing.
No. We'll talk about that on Friday or something like that. But we got that. We got Arsenal after a big win against Man City versus Chelsea this upcoming weekend. So it'll be interesting to see our Slack interactions. Even though the game's kind of early, so I don't know how much I'm going to be able to watch it. And then we also have Texas. But I'm good. I'm happy to be back. Let's talk about Rogue Shop, though, Ketch. How's the Rogue Shop products? You want to go ahead and talk about our main man, Richard, and the Rogue Shop and all the fantastic things that place offers?
Let me give you a little personal anecdote about the Rogue Shop. Richard sent me a disposable cartridge, and I've misplaced it. And it has greatly saddened me. Rogue Shop is so great that when you misplace the product, it makes you sad. As simple as that. Like, that's how good. So I've gone with the backup, which is not the portable cartridge, but like this other cartridge. Like, I'm okay, but and again, all you need to know is go to rogueshop.com. The quality of your life can be enhanced, whether it's cartridges or gummies, whether your body aches and you need the salve, or you just want to sleep a little bit better, or you just want to feel better during the day. Rogueshop.com. Use that promo code OrangeBloods, one of our favorite partners. Yes, I'm saddened by the fact that I don't have. He sent me something from, it's like LA birthday cake or something like that. Like, I don't even know what it's called, but it's fantastic.
Wow. That's awesome. I got to get, there used to be a time Richard would send me stuff. Those days.
The thing is, like, I bought a bunch of product.
Well, that's probably
and then he included some treats.
Oh, yeah. All right. So time for me to re-up that. I need to re-up, and then I know Richard and his lovely wife will take care of it. All right. No problems.
Tell Richard you want the disposables that he sent me.
Okay.
They're lovely.
So, Ketch, we have not been around. You and I haven't talked since last week, obviously. But here we are. It's Monday. The season is going to get started. We got Sark at 11. I'm expecting a lot of Cougar High references this week. And I'll kind of start with you because I don't know where your head's at. I'm not going to do a catch question of where your head's at, but where is your head at as we kind of get ready for the second half of this Texas season, which, by the way, it seems like we just wait forever for this thing to come. And then it's here we are halfway through. You're like, damn it, man, slow down, because I need some more football in my life. But what are you thinking?
You want my big Monday overreaction?
Yes.
I think Texas fans acted like some bitches last week, and they need to get back on the horse and get ready for a season that, you can even make the case that nothing really changed. Like, nobody died last week. One of the things that absolutely amazed me was coming. So engagement has been sky high. Traffic on Orange Blood's fantastic. Hundreds of people signing up. The channel's been doing great. Everybody was into the shows. They lost a game, and everybody was like, I want to take my ball and go home. I'm not happy. And it's like, nothing's changed. Even if what's really interesting about the outcome is that if they beat Oklahoma, their positioning is not really much different than it is right now. You still want to win the rest of your games. You still have to qualify and get into the Big 12 championship game. And you're almost certainly, I think, going to have to go through Oklahoma again, no matter what. And look, you want to win more than you want to lose, and you'd like to be undefeated. You'd like to be maybe number 1, number 2 in the country, but there is a playoff. Texas is now up to 8 in both polls 1 week after losing to Oklahoma. They're in a fantastic situation. This season has a chance, if Sarkisian and the players step it up one more notch. I think one more notch takes this team into the potential of being one of the more discussed and celebrated teams in the history of the Texas football program. Not a lot's changed. Everybody should still be really engaged and excited. They should be looking forward to Saturday's game against Houston. The schedule has opened up a little bit now. I mean, everybody across the country's got to play a bunch of dregs this season. The Longhorns haven't had that a lot. They played ranked Kansas. They've played Alabama. Wyoming is still a pretty good football team, but now they get to take on some of the lower weights in their own conference. And I think, let's see some big numbers. I'd like to see this team start to be on offense, the offense that we thought we were going to see before the season started. So I'm really fascinated by where this Texas team goes. Everything is in front of it. And it's time for Texas fans to stop acting like bitches and to realize what's still potentially in front of this team is the stuff that legends are made out of. I wrote about legacies on my 10 Thoughts from the Weekend yesterday: quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, linebacker. There are positions all over the field where there are potentially players chasing all-time great legacies at the school. And I think that's what makes the next 6-7 games really interesting. 6 games leading up to what I think will be an obvious Big 12 championship game spot.
Ketch, I'm 100% with you. There's a couple of things that kind of resonated with me. There's a little bit of stuff that I wrote about. First and foremost, it was a 4-point loss. The overreaction to a 4-point loss was way too much for me. It was just way too much of wow. And I get it. I get what, one loss versus Oklahoma feels like 3, right? And I get it because it's a rivalry game, and that's where that comes from. But at the end of the day, when you take a step back from a big picture perspective, to your point, everything that you thought would happen for this team is still on the table. None of that has changed at all. Ketch, going into the season, I think most of us were probably around a 10-2 range as far as a prediction is concerned. I can't remember if you were at 9-3 or 10-2. I don't know if you switched at the last moment or not. But at the end of the day, that's still lining up to being probably at worst a 10-2 season. Which, by the way, Ketch, going into the year, if you had told any Texas fan you're going to finish this season 10-2, I think everyone would have taken that. Everyone would have said, yes, 100%, I'll take 10-2. Now, what happened was they beat Alabama. And because they beat Alabama, all of a sudden it went from, okay, this win the Big 12 championship to, oh my God, maybe this college football playoff thing could happen and this could be great. And oh my God. And so then it gets knocked down to where your goals already started. And I was like, oh man. And to your point, people took their ball and they went home without understanding that, look, if Texas runs the table, all that, if Texas finishes this season 11-1 and they beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game and finish 12-1, it's going to be hard to keep them out when it's all said and done. They will need to be a bunch of undefeated teams, and we've seen with the playoffs and stuff like that before. Sometimes that's not the 100% guarantee on the box. So for me, it starts with Houston this week. But Ketch, I'm 100% with you. few things have changed for me, and I'm not going to sway after one bad thing. Now we see this continually, and all of a sudden, not it's looking like crap against some of these other teams, and they drop a couple more, sure. But for right now, one loss, I just say to myself, get back on that Longhorn wagon that you were on, and continue riding, because they're still playing in football left.
Yeah, I think a couple of thoughts. I think Texas needs to learn from the ghosts of disappointment past. I think it's imperative you don't just win these, because now that you've got a loss, there is a chance that it's going to come down to style points, right? It'll turn into a beauty pageant potentially of choosing between one loss teams if you get into a playoff situation. So in 2008, Texas beat Oklahoma head-to-head. They finished with the same record. Oklahoma gets into the Big 12 championship game because of a rankings issue that was mostly related to the fact that when they played a schedule similar to what Texas is looking at, their final 6 games didn't really play anybody that difficult. They smoked everybody. And when I mean they smoked everybody, I mean they were in the 50s. The other teams were far from it. And every week it looked like they were just putting it on teams. And Texas wasn't quite doing that. They had the most recent loss. And in the end, Texas doesn't qualify for the Big 12 championship game because of style points. So I think it's really important over the course of these next 6 games, Texas got to go for the jugular. Because if it becomes a discussion of style points, Texas should have learned its lesson back in 2008 that style points can matter, and that if they are, you better be on the right side of them. Texas, I think, with a schedule in front of it that should allow them to have some style points. A lot of these games shouldn't be close. I mean, these just are very average teams at best. Number 2, the thing that I'm a little shocked by is that people haven't remembered the year of take that loss, pussy. Like, that was a thing that happened 2018. Texas beats Oklahoma. Texas fans revel in the fact that Ellinger gets a little bit of, a one-up on Kyler Murray. But ain't nobody ever talk about that game, because what happened next is they played again. And for the first time in history, we saw these two teams play twice. What we learned coming out of it is the only thing that matters is December. Win or lose in October, if these two teams play again in December, what happened in October doesn't matter. How do we know that? Because we all lived through 2018 when the second game trumps the first game by such wide margins. It's almost disgraceful. So, and I think, Anwar, to follow up that last point, what we didn't know in August, that the Big 12 the last few years has been the league of somebody comes out of nowhere and becomes kind of a great team. We've seen it in each of the last 2 years. So we kind of baked into this conference that that's what we were going to get, with somebody will be really, really good. And like, that'll be the out of nowhere team that's in the Big 12 championship game. What we now know about the league in October that we didn't know in August is that there really are only 2 very, very good teams. The entire conference is a tier, at least a tier below Texas and Oklahoma. I think Texas could probably lose another game and be in the Big 12 championship game just fine. Oklahoma State's going to lose a couple more games. I don't really trust Kansas State. That's about as good as it gets. I mean, it's a team with it's a league with 2 potentially great teams, but definitely very, very good teams. Nobody else is on that level. And the closest thing that Texas will probably play to one of those teams that's kind of good is Kansas State. That should be a game that Texas, I think, wins emphatically at home later this season.
I'm with you. And I think there's a couple of things, Ketch, as far as the importance of winning out is concerned, because, you talked about the style points and how that matters. Is that, Ketch, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Texas would have beat some teams that were ranked. But at the end of the day, Ketch, there may be only one team that Texas has beaten or defeated at the end of the season that's actually ranked in the top 25. That'll be Alabama. Like, to your point, when we look at the Big 12, it's cannibalizing itself to the point where week in and week out. I mean, Houston beats West Virginia over the weekend. You're like, Houston, like, I thought they sucked. You know, Oklahoma State came out of nowhere and decided, like, oh, I guess we'll play football again. And so all of a sudden, Oklahoma State decides that they're going to, put up a victory. Iowa State is somehow, has a win, and they're 3-1 in the conference at this moment, sitting at number 2. But that's only just because Texas had, I don't think Iowa State's had a bye week at this point. But everyone's cannibalizing each other to the point, like the team. I think two wins, 2 losses, Ketch. You may not even have to worry about a tiebreaker scenario, to be quite honest with you.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, this season, the worst case scenario, I think, for Texas right now is they somehow lose one of these last 6 games, but I still think 10-2 gets them into the Big 12 championship game. So it's only about adjusting the sky-high, goals that everybody has for this team. And this team's going to be look, the only thing that changes this is a quarterback injury. It's the only thing that potentially sidetracks this season. And look, I'm not trying to jinx anybody. I'm pointing out the realities of, if you look across the Big 12, it feels like almost every team in the conference has lost a quarterback. Texas Tech is down to their 3rd quarterback. Kansas is down to their they've been playing Jason Bean. All across the conference, there are backup quarterbacks all over the field. It's a reminder that this sport can be a tough one. I mean, guys get hurt. Georgia could be without Brock Bowers for the rest of the season. Does that change their national championship run? I mean, these are the things that teams deal with. And the Longhorns, I'm guessing, over the course of the next 6 weeks, will lose somebody. Somebody will get injured, and you just hope it's not your quarterback, because I think anything other than the quarterback, there's no reason, none. If as long as Ewers stays healthy, there's no reason for this team not to be back in against Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. So, like I said, there's no reason to have a sad face on. This is a season that sets up to be as exciting or more exciting as any season in the last 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, so for you, a super chat came in. Thank you, Aaron. A super chat came in from Texas Boy. He goes, "I will own up the BJ." Okay, I was like, wait, got it. Has been heard all week, but is ready to move forward. H-Town does worry me, though. Does Houston worry you, Catch?
No.
Like, I mean, isn't that just one of those, like, the sun shines on the dog's ass every once in a while kind of a win for Houston?
I mean, I think what Houston has is a capable quarterback. Donovan Smith's not great, but he's capable. They've got good receivers. So I feel like this should be, at worst, this is what it should be at worst. Look, we know that things can get worse, right? But, maybe Texas is going to score a lot of points. Houston may score some points, but it's hard for me to believe that Houston can score enough points to hang with Texas. It will take something similar to what happened against Oklahoma. You'd have to be upside down on the turnovers in such a way that you can allow anybody into a game. In Texas, you mentioned this last Monday. Texas basically had 5 turnovers against Oklahoma. The 3 that Ewers is responsible for, the turnover on downs at the 1-yard line, and then the penalty on the running into the kicker works as a turnover because you lost the ball. And so as long as you're not doing that, then these are games that Texas, I think, at worst should be outscoring their opponents. I think Houston has a chance to put up a good fight, but I don't know that I expect more than a nice little tussle. Mayweather would get into some of these fights where through 4 or 5 rounds, because he wasn't always the most active guy, People would get excited, like, oh my God, we got a fight on our hands. And then at the end, it's like, and the winner by unanimous decisions, 118-110 across the board.
Yeah, correct.
You're like, wait a minute, I thought we were watching a fight.
Yes. Remember one of those fights when Shane Mosley hit him one time? We're like, oh my God, he got hit. that was only the highlight of the fight, was that actually Floyd got hit once.
Well, people did that with McGregor. It was like, oh, McGregor's winning the fight. That's well.
Yes.
You mean Floyd is selling this well enough that it looks like a fight?
Yeah.
Because Floyd could have ended that in a round if he really wanted to.
Correct. Well, it was about that money. So are you willing to Ketch? Are you willing to put that defensive performance as a one-off? Are you willing to say what you saw in the first 5 games overrides what you saw versus Oklahoma from a defensive standpoint?
Kind of. You know, when that game ends, we are kind of back to square one with where our concerns for this season. By the way, when I did pick 9-3, but I thought the Big 12 would be more respectable. Like it's hard for me to look at any of these last 6 games. TCU will be the toughest, but and that may legitimately be a tough game. But the rest of the schedule, I thought like BYU and the likes of Baylor would be better than they have been. The Longhorns don't really have a great pass rush. I mean, after Alabama, we were getting our Anthony Hill and Ethan Burke each going to have 8 sacks this season. And when I dared say, whoa, those you're taking sack numbers for granted. If you think that multiple young guys are just going to have 8 because they got a couple early on. Burke hasn't had one since the Alabama game. Hill is, I think, emerging as one of the best players on this defense, but he's not automatically the answer to the pass rush. Linebacker, and look, the thing that I think was most alarming among a lot of alarming things on Saturday was, God forbid, Jalen Ford have an average to below average game, because suddenly it was a defense that lacked playmakers. There weren't a lot of opportunities in that game to make plays, and Texas didn't. Jaron Thompson drops an interception. Jahdae Barron misses a couple of tackles. In fact, they missed like 20-something tackles. I think that's the part that you can take for granted. We'll get better. They'll tackle better. But we're back to this issue of who's making the plays on defense, who's getting to the quarterback on defense, and is the overall linebacker play good enough? I'm somewhere in the middle, and this Houston game I think is a good quiz. 2 weeks off to get their stuff back together. Houston's got good receivers and a capable quarterback. This will probably be the third best quarterback that Texas will have played after Jalen Milroe and Dylan Gabriel. So of all the teams they played, I think a healthy Donovan Smith is better than everybody else that Texas has played so far. So it should be a good little battle. Like, this should be a good test for Texas. Go on the road, capable quarterback, good receivers, show us that you're for real. I'm really excited for Saturday because it's the kind of game that could be tricky if they mess around and let it be. If they're really championship quality, though, they come out and by the middle of the second quarter, they've asserted some will in this game. And that's what I want to watch this game for. What level does Texas respond to after the loss? Do they come back and just lay it on somebody and set the tone for, this is who we are from here on out? That's what I think we'd all like to see. I think for me, it's the major question of this game. Is this a 48-20 game, or is this a 35-27 game, 35-30? It has a chance to be either.
God help us if it's the latter, a close one. God help us is one of those games there, Ketch, because I don't know if a close. I don't know which would they would consider worse, a close win versus Houston or a loss versus OU. I feel like both would kind of feel like L's in the Texas vantage point. But it is very interesting though, Ketch, because you are correct. It's funny when we did all these shows before the season, it was like, so how many Sorrell going to have versus Ethan Berg? So I mean, I feel like when it was all said and done, the math was like 40 sacks. When it's all like Sorrell's going to have at least 10. Ethan Berg is going to be like 8 or 10. So that's probably like 20 right there. The guys up the middle, I mean, that's like at least 5 each, right? So we're at like 25, then we start bringing in the Alfred Collins and the Vernon. I felt like people have talked themselves into like 30 sacks from that group. And as you understand, like sacks are really a hard thing to come by, and it's not the easiest thing to do. And we're seeing that it's easy to talk yourself into it. And I think T'Vondre Sweat has kind of lived up to his billing, and I think Byron Murphy, definitely has. But I definitely think from the edge standpoint, you got to see a little bit more productivity from those guys, and in getting to the quarterback and affecting those guys and putting them down on the ground. Like again, T'Vondre coming through the middle is great, but you need a little bit more. I'm willing to one off the Jalen Ford thing. I think people have asked if he was concussed or something to that effect, but I'm willing to one off that because
how bad do you have to be, Anwar, where it's like, was he concussed or did someone like slip him drugs? Like,
yeah, not good. Not good is the answer to that one.
He'll be fine though.
Yeah, but there's again, the body of work for him has suggested that he'll be better, going forward. The questions about the secondary will be interesting. I know people have asked about like Ryan Watts, but that the secondary. Let's just face it, man. There's some times that they didn't do their job. And what was concerning about the most concerning thing that Sark said last week, Ketch, out of everything, when he started talking about that last drive, he started talking about the communication breakdown that was occurring. And there's too many people who have played too much football on this team for there to be a communication breakdown as far as guys not knowing what to do. This, for the most part, is a veteran team, Ketch. I mean, these are guys who played a lot of football together. So you told me they put a bunch of freshmen out there. I would get that. But for there to be a communication breakdown as relates to a bunch of the older guys, that's the only thing I looked at and said, that shouldn't happen. But nonetheless, I'm willing to give them that thing as far as the defense is concerned. What about the offense for you, though, Ketch? On the offensive side of the ball, all right, can I start off with make a fun one on Monday? Can I ask you a fun question?
Sure.
If his boo is healthy.
Oh, this is fun. What are you doing?
It's fun-ish. If his boo is healthy after the bye week, had a chance to rest up, CJ Baxter is back at 100%. Is CJ getting all the touches for the second half of the season?
He's not going to get all the touches, but I think he's not going to be able to help himself. He is a bazillion % committed to CJ Baxter. And he's got a guy in Jonathan Brooks right now that is as legit of a first-team All-America candidate as anybody on this team. He's ninth. Forgive me if I'm off by a spot, but he's ninth in the country in rushing right now, but he's played at least one game fewer than everybody else. There's a guy from Notre Dame ahead of him that's had 2 more games rushing. So, he's on pace to be a Doak Walker Award finalist if his coach lets him eat. And I think the only thing that might stop Jonathan Brooks from having a first-team All-America level season is this urge by Sark to force the CJ Baxter thing. His running back question is answered. It's answered. Like, we had questions before the season started. We have answers in the middle of October. And I don't know that he likes the answers. It's not the answer that he thought he was going to have. CJ Baxter's not better than Jonathan Brooks. And every time in key situations, he starts leaning into the belief that CJ Baxter is as good as Jonathan Brooks. He's doing the team a disservice, quite frankly. I mean, you know, one of the things they got to get away from is if Baxter comes into the game, they got to show some different stuff. Because when Baxter came into the game against OU was convinced that Baxter was going to get the ball. And if you think about one of the plays that Sark says he'd like to take back, I think was that little end around to Whittington. Mm-hmm. It's a 2 versus 5 situation from a blocking standpoint, primarily because Oklahoma crashed up towards the line of scrimmage, convinced that not only were they going to run Baxter, but they were going to run him to that side of the field. So, like, if and when Baxter starts to get real touches again, even starting on Saturday, they gotta show that he can pass protect. They gotta show that Texas, when he puts them in, isn't tipping off their pitches. I think against Oklahoma, when he came into the game, I think the OU players and what the OU coaches did in response to when he did come in, let you know that they certainly thought Texas was leaning into the trends of the scouting reports that they had seen in the week leading up to that game. So if he's going to play more, they got to do some different stuff with Baxter on the field, because Oklahoma didn't respect the Texas offense with Baxter on the field. And it showed when, you know, the guy, he's better than a 2.5 yards per carry. But when the other team is so convinced that you're only on the field to get the ball, it makes it tough for any running back. And so I think, you know, Steve Sarkisian, to me, this week is about him. When we were just talking about style points and how this team performs and what level do they reach and how many points do they win by, we were sold an offense before the season that we have not yet seen. I mean, this has not been a nuclear Texas offense. But boy, they've had a tough schedule. Now it lightens up. There should be some 40 and 50-point games by this offense moving forward. But I think you got to lean on your best players, and you have to start dictating. I think one of the things that annoys me the most about Sarkisian is that from week to week, it sounds like he lets the defense dictate terms to him. We take what's given to us. If they're going to take away Worthy, we'll do this. If they're going to take away this, we'll do this. Get the ball to your best players. You know, you can't get into a situation where you throw the ball to Xavier Worthy on the first play of the game and then don't go back to him for 20 minutes because someone took him away. Nah, man, can't have that. Like, when I watch Sarkisian likes to think, I think of himself as a guy that's done it in the NFL. I watched a bunch of NFL yesterday. You know who doesn't get taken away? Great players. Great players. I watched the Giants last night try to take away Stephon Diggs. Dude caught 10 passes.
You don't think people are trying to take away Tyreek at this moment?
They're trying, man. They are trying. They're trying. And that dude's open all the time. And I think that too often this offense doesn't do enough of getting the ball to its best players and forcing make the defense adjust. And I one of the things that slightly annoys me is from week to week, you hear a lot about Texas either saying we saw something we didn't prepare for and it took us a while to kind of get going, or, hey, other teams, they've got good players and they're taking away some of the things that we want to do. So we're doing other things. And it's like, well, don't let them take away Xavier Worthy. Don't let in the OU game 20 minutes of game time go by before you get him touches. And they need to be more aggressive. Let's see some all gas, no brakes, Sark. Like, again, I'm really excited for this Houston game because there's so much about this team that I want to see. What are they made of? How do they respond? Can they go on the road against an opponent that isn't going to get them hyped up and still be great? I can't wait for Saturday.
No, I'm with you on that, Ketch. It's interesting. I will only make just a slight disagreement to one thing you said, which I don't think you have an issue with. When you talked about the offense this season.
How dare you? Go ahead.
We didn't see offensive explosion versus Rice or Wyoming, right? Except for later, right? And for the most part, you go to Wyoming, there was no real offense for 3 quarters, right? And there wasn't really a huge offense versus Rice for at least the first half. So there hasn't. As far as next level is this offense starting and finishing strong. It can't just be the trip, take, try thing, whatever someone tried to label this thing. It's got to be came out strong. This is our game plan. We inflicted the pain on them, and we continue doing what we do, start to finish. It is what it is, but it can't be just in spurts. It can't just be here. And I understand you can't score in every single possession. I get that. I 100% get that. But I also don't think you should be, to your point, of this Floyd Mayweather defense mode for the entire game, hoping to eventually just land a couple of things here and there. I think
if the Texas offense was a boxer, Anwar, they'd be Floyd Mayweather.
They would be Mayweather, right? They would be. That's a great analogy, right? It would be, because it's just defense, let's defense, and then eventually I'll just jab you, and like you said, I'll win eventually. Yeah. But you're gonna go and say, man, you could have won those early rounds a lot better, couldn't you? It's like, well, we won. It's like, well, yeah, but we'll see if that's the long-term thing of success. I think, to your point, what Texas has working for itself to a certain degree is they don't have a lot of killers left, but they do have tricky games. And K-State's clearly is going to be a tricky game. TCU, like to your point, at Fort Worth, I've seen that show way too many times of a team going into Fort Worth thinking, we got this. And that place gets a little bit loud and a little bit rowdy.
Texas hasn't done enough against TCU in the last decade. Forget about last year.
Correct.
Gary Patterson, when he was still coaching, was Texas's daddy, man. Like, the scores were like 202-50 over like 7 years. You got that game cannot completely be taken for granted. Texas has not earned the right to take a trip to Fort Worth for granted.
No, not at all. not zero, to be quite honest with you. So no. So there are some tricky things left where if Texas thinks they can just sleepwalk through it and get through it, like that's not going to happen. Like it's just not going to happen. For the most part. I mean, we didn't expect Dylan Gabriel to be who he was, and all of a sudden it became inch mile. Oh wait, you're gonna we can run the ball on this thing? All right, well, cool. Dylan Gabriel all of a sudden is rushing for over 100 yards. Like there's certain things you're going to they'll have to be on their P's and Q's about, going forward. Ketch, before we get too far, and I know we're going to about 20 minutes left. Let's talk about specs. Rogue is one of your favorite ones, and that's one of my favorite ones. That's tied with me for specs, Ketch, because specs has the great low prices that we need. It is got Monday Night Football tonight. Ketch, you probably need some specs because you are in a dogfight in fantasy football. If I looked at the scoreboard correct. And so if their specs needs to be in your life, even though it's not, maybe your household. But nonetheless, Aaron, let's go ahead and look at specs.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Yeah, man, go to Specs online and take advantage of the same-day delivery. You got your You're gonna be watching Saturday's game, almost certainly, Anwar, in a game at home or somebody's home. Nobody wants to go to Houston and see that thing in person. So it's a TV weekend. Let Specs just stay home, let them deliver, and have the weekend of your life.
Ketch, by the way, many years ago, it's 2 years ago. You told me about like Arkansas and that's a rowdy place. What should I expect when I go to Houston? Does it have an atmosphere there at all?
Whatever atmosphere they can muster up, they'll have on Saturday. So
okay, gotcha. It'll be generous.
I mean, it is. You ever been to a JV football game? It's kind of like the varsity. Like cheerleaders will show up. People sit in the stands. They have officials. Like the same officials that do the varsity games will come do the JV games, right?
Yeah.
But it's still the JV. You're going to a JV football game this weekend. In terms of
gotcha.
Atmosphere, not in terms of quality of the opponents. I'm not calling the Houston football team a JV team. You're asking what to expect when you get there. I mean, it won't feel like the best of the other places that you've been to. But, I've been to JV football games where like crowds get gassed up. Sometimes 12 people in the stands can be as impactful as 500, So, it kind of is what it is. By the way, I don't give a damn about my fantasy team tonight.
You don't?
No, because I got Phillies, Diamondbacks going on at the same time as Cowboy Chargers. So my fantasy team is third on the list of things that I'm paying attention to. And quite honestly, the Cowboys going to get second place. I'm all about Phillies, Diamondbacks, game 1, with all due respect to Monday Night Football.
I was more about your fantasy team than the Cowboys themselves.
I'll never be a fan that says my fantasy team is more important than my actual favorite team. But as long as I'm still undefeated, I want to go. I want to go for it. So I'm 5-0 with a chance to go 6-0. I cannot remember the last time, and I don't know, man. It's been a long time since I've been 6-0 to start a season in fantasy in the league that matters, right? I've been in other leagues, and I've cakewalked my way to championships in other league. In our super competitive league, the only league that I now play in, I'm much more likely to be 2-4 lately than 6-0. So go Reno Hightowers.
No, it's really good. Hey, Ketch, I'm about to go to potentially. I think it's going to be 4-2.
You were ready to give up on the season 7 days ago, and I was like,
yeah.
You were like, I'm ready to give up.
I was thinking about big picture things in life. Things I could be doing.
You were about to be at the fuck them kid stage of fantasy football. I could see the Jordan scowl on your face, and now you're like, "Oh, hey, maybe 4-2."
Well, what's giving me hope is and I say I want to talk about Ryan Wingo. What's giving me some hope is that I started getting trade requests from Alex, but then was it Swindopoulos? That's Byron, right? Yes. He's been sending me trade requests every week the past couple of weeks. I start thinking to myself, first of all, you can't trade with a guy whose name's Swindopoulos. Your team name is called Swindle, right? I can't even
shout
feel
out
good for about doing that. But nonetheless, all right. So while I was away, Ketch, you guys had I'll put it on Jason Sukumel. Because all your updates were nice and positive. And so for the negative updates or somewhat, there was a Ryan Wingo update, Ketch, about might be leaning towards Mizzou. And I just kind of, as a recruiting guy, I just want to get your perspective on not only him, but where Texas is at recruiting-wise at this moment. Because as I looked this morning, I looked at the rivals top 25. I didn't look at your Lone Star per se, but I did look at their top 25. And I'm sure there's some similarities. Texas has 3 guys committed in the top 25. Obviously, Ryan Wingo's out of state, so that doesn't necessarily count. But I'm curious your take not only on Wingo, but where Texas is in state at this moment. With hell, I mean, December's right around the corner.
One of the reasons why Colin Simmons was so important, for beyond obvious reasons, right? 5-star player at one of the 3 most critical positions in college football, quarterback, left tackle, edge. Like those are, I think the consensus big 3. If you can get a super talent at one of those positions, it can change a program. But Texas has not done a good enough job inside the state of Texas this year. And it's not any one thing. It's not, we've seen this. We saw this with Tom Herman when he got into kind of his 3rd year, where it was like guys stopped believing in the message. Herman was selling, we're going to play for championships, and recruits were like, well, when? Because all I see is a bunch of 8-4-ish kind of stuff. That's not happening with Sark. They're not having success in Texas on a wide scale this year. Not because I think it's anything really related to Texas. It's been a weird year. You look at the state top 10 and guys just kind of scattered everywhere. Now, what makes that really weird is that Texas, just coming off having a top 5 recruiting class, a top 3 recruiting class, they're still doing really good nationally. The fact that they're in the top 2 for a guy like Ryan Wingo, Texas doesn't really have any foundation. That's not Mater Day or Mater Day High School. That's Missouri. And Texas hasn't really had any success there, but they're in it with Wingo. Like, I think there are multiple conversations to be had. They got to do better in state. And I think 2025 may give us a better reflection of what the hell is going on in state. And maybe right now it's just, maybe the future, maybe the trend, maybe this is the beginning of a trend. We don't know if it's an anomaly or a trend, but they're all going in different directions. Some kids are going to Clemson. Some go to Alabama. Some go to Georgia. Some go to Notre Dame. Some go to Texas. Some go to Texas A&M, but they just go everywhere. Is that where we are? It would be a new era of recruiting in the state of Texas if Texas and Texas A&M weren't dominating, but they're not dominating this year. I think out-of-state recruiting is really good. I think wide receiver recruiting isn't good enough, but that's mainly because the Ryan Wingo thing looks to have taken a really sharp turn in Albuquerque, and that looks now to be a situation that Texas isn't going to win. Could things change? Maybe. But the thing specifically with Wingo that I've heard are twofold. One, sounds like Missouri boosters have stepped up their NIL game. So, where that's usually a major advantage for Texas. Missouri can put all of its NIL into Wingo in a way that we talked about Texas Tech potentially being able to do with a Micah Hudson, where they might not be able to kill it with NIL for 10 recruits, but for 1 or 2, they can scratch up the cash to neutralize that to a certain degree. And I'm hearing that Missouri is doing a really good job of selling what would be available to him in NIL. So there's one component. And weirdly, it seems like I'm hearing from people that I'm talking to, these aren't national sources. This isn't what I'm hearing from Missouri people or our national recruiting guys at Rivals. I'm hearing this locally, is that Wingo has found some issues in the Texas offense that he doesn't like. And usually when something like that happens, it really gives you an idea of like, oh, okay, they got him, didn't they? He's now echoing something that he's heard. And, because who wouldn't want to play in Steve Sarkisian's offense? But I've heard Missouri's the lack of a rotation is something that people are pointing to in recruiting and saying, this could be you next year, that you could be as a freshman, not in the top 3. And maybe that just means you don't play. And then I've even heard that there are concerns that he doesn't think they're aggressive enough offensively. He's looking at the way Missouri's using Luther Burden and then looking at the way that Texas is using Xavier Worthy. And believe it or not, is saying, I want to go play in that offense more than I want to go play in this other offense. Sark's offense is never the reason why someone doesn't want to come to Texas if they're a skill position player. And yet we've reached a point where I've heard that Wingo has expressed some concerns about how he would be used in the Texas offense, and that those concerns don't exist as it relates to Missouri. Kudos to Missouri. It sounds like they're doing a fantastic job as the home state team in protecting the home state asset. And when it's all said and done, Missouri is what, 5-1, 6-1. They're ranked. They've got an offense that has turned a local 5-star receiver into a potential first-round draft pick. They got a lot of things going for it that they're able to show directly to Ryan Wingo and say, see, if you stay here, these are the things that can happen. It feels like this is the 3rd or 4th 5-star receiver from the state of Missouri that Texas has gone after in the last 20 years, going back to Dorial Green Beckham in 2006, I think, if I have my years correct. And Texas is always right there, but they've yet to close one of these, Anwar. They try. They've had multiple coaching staffs try, but they've never closed the deal.
So sometimes in the there's no coincidences in life department. As I hear you talking, I think back to Sark saying, I wish I should have played Jonte Cook a little bit more. Is that when you start talking about they got to a guy, right? Is that as simple as Missouri saying, look at that guy, he's a 5-star, he's not playing as much? And does that mean directly, indirectly, and Sark said, does he have to say, you know what, I got to get Cook on the field in the second half of the season if I want to get the Micah Hudsons of the world, or if I want to get, the Ryan Wingos of the world? Like, I've got to play these guys right away.
Cook's usage this season is awful for future 5-star recruiting because, typically, and this isn't what I expected either. I think everybody expected more Jonte Cook, certainly by the midway point of the season. Yes, it will not help the recruitment of future 5-star receivers. And look, recruiting offensive skill talent, I don't really worry about with Sarkisian. And I don't completely worry about, okay, well, they don't get Ryan. Let me put it to you like this. If the choice came down to Ryan, and I'm not saying this just because this is the situation that Texas now finds itself in, but if it was Ryan Wingo for 3 years or 3 years of Adonai Mitchell's, if I had to make the choice between a 5-star receiver or being able to go into the portal and finding an absolute instant impact starter. I saw you were talking about Byron from Roster Watch earlier. I watched one of the guys at Roster Watch put out a mock draft on Friday where Mitchell's listed as a 1st rounder.
Wow.
So
yeah.
That the byproduct of Texas losing Wingo is that they'll probably go into the portal. They were already going to go into the portal, but now it's an even more enticing, I think, situation in the portal. I think Texas will be fine, but it doesn't help recruiting elite high school prospects if the guys you get in that were elite high school prospects. It's one thing if they play poorly. Right? I mean, let's say you're recruiting a 5-star running back and you look and show them CJ Baxter. And it's like, well, he hasn't had a bunch of carries, but you can explain, like, he's been hurt. He's had ankle injuries. We've got another guy that's rushing for, potentially 1,500 yards. Like, you can explain that. But I don't think you can explain Jonte Cook not playing at all, especially like on days when they could have used him. I mean, Adonai Mitchell played poorly against Oklahoma, certainly compared to what we'd seen just a previous week against Kansas. There were some effort issues. He wasn't producing. If you can't get in the rotation on a day when Mitchell doesn't have his fastball, when exactly are you getting on the field? I think it's one of the things that Sarkisian's got to figure out in the last 6 games of this season. They got to get Jonte Cook involved, and they got to get him more playing time. But they almost never take Worthy and Mitchell out of the game. I mean, those guys play 90% of the offensive snaps, and that is not by accident. That's by design. So it'll be curious to see on Saturday, does he get 5 snaps? Does he get 15 snaps? It's hard to imagine he would get more than that. But yeah, man, there are no accidents in life. And how ironic that in this season where we expected Texas to go nuclear on offense, that the passing game isn't sexy enough for the 5-star you're receiver that you're recruiting, and that somehow Missouri's offense seems more enticing. But hey, if you were a 5-star receiver and you're thinking about going to a school and they had another 5-star receiver and that guy never played, what would you think? You'd be like, huh. I mean, at the very least, you can't say that couldn't happen to me. It could. It is literally happening. So I don't think it's a big deal. Like, I don't think this is a reflection on the general state of recruiting at Texas. They just landed Brandon Baker literally just a couple of weeks ago. He's a 5-star kid from California. So, like, let's not overreact to what the Ryan Wingo recruitment represents. And look, the elephant in the room, and I am not going to make a big deal about this, Anwar. In fact, I haven't said it at all, ever, but I'm going to say it now. You hired a receivers coach with no recruiting background. It can't be a shock in year one that recruiting at that position is a little bumpy while he tries to figure out how to get his recruiting on. And you've got Chris Jackson manning the Ryan Wingo recruitment, and it's the first recruitment of that kind that he's ever been involved in. These things, it can't, nobody should be it shouldn't be that kind of reaction when you look at the things that Texas has on some level volunteered for. Another level, there's just circumstances, and it just kind of has evolved the way it's evolved.
So I guess I got to get going. But just real quick, I got one more for you, and I know you guys will have more on this when you do your show at noon at some point. But obviously, I'm in Mexico. It's funny that Dale Coleman said he hoped I wrapped up. The reason I was in Mexico because I didn't wrap up many years ago. There's some irony to that one, Dale. I can tell you that much. But nonetheless, Ketch, Jimbo Fisher. I just real quick, and I know you'll have more thoughts, and I know this is slightly off topic, but I do want to hear from your words first, though. My gosh, another L. I mean, they're just stuck, aren't they? They're just stuck taking L's until that contract runs out, or at least gets to a good buyout point, right?
That is a program that doesn't have a lot of options. Now, the good thing is for them is their NIL is so strong, dudes will keep taking money, okay? And Jimbo needs to lean into that at this point and say, hey, we pay better than anybody. Lean into it. It's legal. You can do that now. Yeah. Quit being defensive about it. Because at this point, I don't know why else guys would want to go to A&M. And I think the thing they'll need to watch for, are they about to implode? I mean, the season, coming off of last year's season, they have really big hopes. They're awful to watch on offense. Awful. They make scoring. You ever see the really uncomfortable guys in high school never got any play? It's the A&M offense. It's not rocket science. It shouldn't be this hard to get in the end zone. And yet I feel like you almost had to. They scored early on Saturday, Anwar, and then it was like, okay, well, just that's it for the touchdowns in this game. And it's, boy, you want to talk about Texas's problems compared to A&M's problem.
Boy.
Hey, I have a question, by the way. In the event that you're looking for questions to ask Sark.
Okay, yes.
Mainly because he mentioned last week that the week in practice was about young guys and getting them some reps and scrimmages. I think people are kind of curious which young guys from the practices last week caught his eye, maybe put themselves into a position to get more playing time.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I absolutely.
If that's not better than if you got like 10 questions already, I know how it is. Some days you're like, what the fuck am I going to ask? And then other days you're like, man, I got 10 questions and I got to choose one.
No.
In the event that it's the former, not the latter. There you go.
How about this? Coming off a time where I spent time with my kids and did family stuff, I can tell you that I have not been thinking, what am I going to ask Ketch? What am I going to ask Sark on Monday? As I'm holding my crying child as I'm about to leave, I'm like, I gotta be there Monday. Ask him a question, son.
Last week you hooked me up. That's why. Look, I've never publicly been like, hey, I got a question idea for you. But last week you got in a second question and you asked the question that we've been talking about on the reaction show. And I thought it was the single most enlightening, like, back and forth of the entire press conference. Because when he admitted there was nothing that he would change about how he handled the game management of that last drive, it took all the question marks out of it. It was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Now we know. And it's like, okay.
So instead of doing an over under for whatever time that Sark is going to appear today, can we do an over under the number of questions it'll take before someone asks about injuries?
Ooh. 8.
That's the line.
8,
so is the line 7? So the line 7.
Because the thing is, it just depends on when you're up in the queue. Because everybody's like, oh, Anwar will ask the important stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and ask about Halloween candy, or this is gonna be, I think, the strangest press conference of the year. Because it's not a press conference. Nobody really wants to ask about Houston. But nobody really wants to be a jerk and ask questions about something from 2 weeks ago. So you're left with, I can ask anything, but I don't want to ask this, and I shouldn't probably ask this. So what people ask today could be absolutely fascinating. Like this,
it's probably going to be the wildest thing. You're probably going to have someone, hey, what do you think about Ryan Sanborn? Say, what do you think about like this guy? Like, it's probably like, how's DJ Campbell coming along? Like, it probably is going to be the most randomest with no flow kind of press conference ever.
There'll be no rhyme or reason for what questions come first, second, third. It's going to just be like a big old, like a bingo game.
All right,
get out of here.
Yeah, by the way, I'm pretty sure I broke my toe. So at some point after this,
is it like a bad color? Like if you look at it, does it look mangled?
It doesn't look mangled, but it's definitely not a good color. It's not a good color. I can tell you that much.
I mean, I feel like when people break bones, they look at their foot and go, "Oh, it's broken."
Yeah, but it's a pinky toe. You can still operate technically with
the pinky toe.
Yes. Not like you shot it off like Harlem Nights, but damn it, man. So, Ketch, I'll tell you real quick. You'll appreciate this. I took my kid to a trampoline place, right? And so every kid always, you're going to have a kid that falls, whatever. So my youngest kid, he falls. I'm trying to walk around because he's crying. So I try to walk around. I step into a trampoline thing, And I'm like, oh, I lost my balance. As I try to get out, pinky toe hits on the edge, right? So I'm hobbling around for a couple of days, right? And I thought it was broken then, but my friend's a nurse there. She was like, and it may or may not be. You say she can tell me you can still operate on it. I was like, I tell myself just don't go to the doctor. So I feel okay. Yesterday, middle of the night, I got up, doors open, hit the same damn toe, same damn spot, fell to the ground. Felt even worse. It's been throbbing the entire time. Now it's throbbing. Like now I even today, like I can just feel it throbbing right now. So
maybe you
so
have
when
turf toe.
Well, so when you see me today and I'm wearing sandals at Sarkeesian's press conference, no, it's the only thing I can really fit on my foot.
You can't wear shoes?
Oh God, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts too much.
So you're letting every media person, you're giving them, because when you said, when you see me later today, you weren't literally talking to me. You're talking to your people who you're going to actually see, and they're going to see you wearing like open-toed.
No, well, I can put a sock on, thank God, because it's too cold outside. But yeah, no, so probably, so nonetheless, the good part is I don't really care about what the majority of them think. So there is that. And it's not like I really have like boys.
Yeah, but you dress nicely.
Yeah, it's not gonna look nice from the waist down though.
You can't wear like a suit today, right? Because nobody can wear a suit and flip-flops.
So what I'm doing is I'm wearing sweats and some and socks in order to kind of like go with the look.
Oh man, I am the most casual clothes wearing mother, you know what, at a press conference as anyone has ever seen, but I have never worn sweats to the press conference. But
I wear sweats and sandals today, and I'm making an appointment over at the urgent care in Anderson Mill. I'm gonna go try. So as soon as I have to pick up Max today. We're just gonna roll over. I'm just gonna get an X-ray, see if I, I'm hoping it's just a bad bruise.
But they can give you some pain for it though.
Yeah, some meds.
Throbbing, and you're like,
yeah, I can feel
even
it.
now, like discomfort. Yeah. They need to get you like
it's burning. It's burning.
This is where if you had pets, you could take some of their pain medication.
What? You can take pet pain meds?
Well, it's the same stuff. It's the same stuff.
Get out.
I've never taken my dog's pain medication, but I know people that have.
Man, I know people who have it.
No.
Hey, I know people who have it.
If you look, it's like tramadol, right? Like it's the same stuff. If I broke my toe and didn't have any pain medication and was stubborn and wasn't going to the doctor until Monday, I'd at least consider it's tramadol. It just is called dog.
Is it the same milligrams though?
I have no idea. Like I said, I wouldn't take it, but if I had broke a toe, the stronger the better.
Man, there's some things I want to say, but I'm going to message it to you so I don't get canceled. But I can tell you, I ain't never thought of it. So on that note, I'll message you. I definitely need some rogue products for that. You know what? Oh, I'm going to put the salve on it right now, Ketch.
I can't believe you haven't already done that. Although
I just thought of it.
If it's potentially broken, it might take a while before the salve works on. Like when your toe starts to get better, it'll help it feel better. But right now, it's still in the holy shit, we're hurt.
Yeah,
you're not at the it's getting better stage yet.
Nah. I definitely made it worse last night or in the middle of the night. I definitely did a little bit more damage. So yeah. So I've got Sark, and then I'm gonna pick up my son. I'm gonna go urgent care, get an X-ray. Hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully it's nothing major. So you got a final thing, Ketch, or we just want to close this puppy out?
Man, someone on Orange Bloods posted a photo of the actress Brie Larson's feet. And she wore open-toed.
How bad
on
was
purpose.
It?
And I've never seen a woman's feet ever look quite that bad. Like she looked like she could have been Shaquille O'Neal, like Shaq's feet. And I've never seen such a good-looking woman have such bad feet. and then be so open to show the feet. I don't like my feet. I keep them covered. Like if I look like Shrek on the feet, I'd cover them up or something. Anyway, Google Brie Larson toes.
Oh, wow.
And it'll change the way you think of the Marvel universe.
On that note, thanks for watching Overreaction Monday, where we got toes and everything going on.
There are people right now who are Googling Brie Larson toes. They'll see.
Go, you guys give your full report to Ketch on his show.
That may be a buy or sell question for Chad later.
All right. On that note, see you later. I will see you next week. Thanks for checking out Overreaction Monday, and check out the rogueshop.com. Use that promo code orangebloods.com. You guys